Are any of you recovering from religion? Welcome to Funny You Say That. It's your host, Skeptical Scott. Today we break from the usual storytelling episode to talk with someone who's very familiar with people who have been on what I call the heathen's journey. I know many of you are at different points on that map, and I think today's guest may help us even find the map and perhaps answer, where do I go from here? Steve Ghikadis, a secular humanist who is raising freethinkers with his Christian wife. Wow, there's already a lot in that one sentence. You know that song, Don't Stop Believing, right? Born and raised in South Detroit. Well, if you could see a map, South Detroit, there isn't one. It's in another country. Steve joins us near the Canadian border in Windsor, Ontario. What I already appreciate about Steve is his empathy and passion. His motto just may be, let's work together, we're all we have. He's living that out through his roles with Humanist Canada, Sunday Assembly Detroit, and recovering from religion. Please welcome to the show, Steve Ghikadis. Hello, Steve.
Hello, thanks so much for having me. I'm not used to an applause. Usually I get booed off stage, so this is great.
It is funny, isn't it? It's like, gosh, you wonder why people who are recovering from religion don't speak up all the time, right? So I appreciate anybody who's willing to have that conversation. Steve,
absolutely.
Yeah, hey, you heard the intro. Is there one thing you want to add, whether that's a correction or an addition, or just something that not a lot of people would know about you?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it all. I do too much. One secret that people don't really know about me is that I'm a huge Limp Bizkit fan.
Oh, right.
And I went to Saginaw a couple of years ago, and then I went to Pine Knob just a couple of months ago. And it actually made me lose a job one time because I was in the interview. And I said, I like new metal. He said, oh, I see you like new metal. I said, yeah. And he goes, do you like Limp Bizkit or Korn better?
Uh-oh.
And I was like, I like Limp Bizkit. And then his face kind of looked at me like, I don't know about this. And as he's kicking me out the door, I said, well, I like both, just, Limp Bizkit a little bit more.
You just saw his face drop. So, yeah, let's just get started. What was your relationship with religion, would you say, in the first 18 years of your life?
Well, you know how they say there's like a love-hate relationship?
Yeah.
It wasn't like that at all. I didn't care one way or another about religion. I was raised as a free thinker. I always say accidentally raised as a free thinker because my mom did all the best practices without reading the book, because the book wasn't written at the time.
Fantastic.
I was baptized Anglican, but maybe went to church once in a while, and it never really stuck.
Let's start with a definition then. If you consider yourself a free thinker or a secular humanist, what does that mean?
Yeah, I always just usually tell people that it is it's a non-religious philosophy that's based on, like, with the main focus being on well-being, compassion, caring for others, and scientific investigation.
Yeah, I'm down. Tell us then how you became involved with the recovering from religion.
During the pandemic, I was kind of short on work for a little bit. I had seen recovering from religion be advertised on like the Atheist Experience and Talk Heathen and shows like that. And I said, that'd be an excellent place for me to maybe put some time in. And I was kind of afraid to submit an application at first because I'm thinking, like, my wife is a Christian. If she finds out that I'm volunteering for recovering from religion, it's going to sound kind of negative. And I did submit my application in secret, and I secretly worked for them for about 2 years before I even mentioned it to her.
Wow.
Yeah. And I started off as a helpline agent. And basically your job as a helpline agent is to be like an ear to listen, a shoulder to cry on, a peer support worker for people who are calling in or chatting in on the chat line. Now, the thing is with recovering from religion, we're not trying to deconvert anyone. We're basically there as kind of a sounding board for people. So if people are, finding their way out of religion, we're not going to push them that extra step. We're just going to say, here are some resources that you can look into for people who have deconverted. If someone is still a believer and they say, I still believe in God, but my church is very conservative and they're making it so I can't do a certain thing, or I'm gay and the church doesn't really like that, then we help them find churches that are more progressive and help them find like a community.
Wow. I didn't realize that you had done, I'm going to call it undercover, I guess, but you also spell out that those of us who maybe feel alone, there's that resource, but then also those of us who want to contribute somehow. What a cool way to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And getting back to what you were saying about the doing it in secret, when I finally did tell my wife about it, I kept saying to my coworkers, I'd say, I'm going to tell her, and then I'd just not have the nerve to do it.
Yeah, what were you fearful of?
I was kind of like just afraid that, she would hear recovering from religion and make it seem like I was pushing people out of religion.
Right.
But what I did was I just said to her, I've been volunteering for this organization for a little while now. It has a really weird name, but the name is kind of a misnomer. And I said, it's called Recovering from Religion. But then I explained to her exactly how I explained it to you, we're not trying to deconvert anyone. We're there to be, a sounding board for people. There's a ton of resources with Recovering from Religion. There's an entire library of resources.
Right.
There is secular therapy. So if you actually need therapy, we can put you in touch with a secular therapist to make sure that you're not going to get prayed over, or you're not going to be told that you need to find Jesus to be healed. And there are also support groups. My current job there is I'm the ambassador program director. So our ambassadors, we kind of go out and we're the face of the organization. So you'll see us at like tabling events like BajaCon that was recently in Sarnia. We had representation there. A lot of things around, we try to get our face out there. And then there's also the online community, which is basically a community on the inside of our app called Slack. Basically, it's a text-based service where people can continue to recover or go through their journey of recovery in a safe place where no one from the outside can see them.
Wow. Yeah, I think you're spelling that out. Now, something that you and I have in common is my wife considers herself Christian as well.
Mm-hmm.
The way I relate too is undercover. It was more that, not that I was volunteering anywhere, right? But I was certainly digesting a lot of books, podcasts, participating more so on shows like live shows, commenting, that kind of thing, but silently.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Luckily, though, we've definitely we've grown through that. One thing that she said to me, recovering from religion, that reminded her of like an addiction recovery group. Do you see any parallels with that?
I definitely do. Not because religion is kind of like the opiate of the masses, as they would say, but more along the lines of it's one of those things that if you are non-religious, but you are forced to take on a religious label and pretend to be something that you're not, it is something that is going to cause you stress and distress over time. And I definitely felt that in my marriage because, for a while I was pretending to be religious just to fit in and be a part of the family and that type of thing. So I do see the similarities. There's also, I'm not sure if you're aware of the two organizations that are for recovery, but on a non-religious level. Smart Recovery is one of them, and SOS Sobriety is the other. And they don't use a 12-step program where they say you need to find a higher power. They actually just allow you to get through those addictions on your own. And those are some of the resources that we do provide. Also, in the online community, there's also a spot, like a channel for people who have addictions and can talk about it from a non-religious perspective.
There's a ton of work that y'all are doing, and I just very much appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that.
Listeners, check the show notes because I'll have a lot of links to what Steve and I have been talking about here. Hey, and I understand you're a humanist officiant. You've added that to your resume pretty recently, right?
Yeah, I did the course back in January, and then by May, I was a fully fledged officiant to be able to conduct weddings, funerals, memorials, all those type of events and celebrations of life.
What do you love about that?
Originally, what I had done is my mom was going to get remarried, and she was talking about it, and I said, well, it'd be really cool if I could marry you and your husband. And she was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. So I ended up looking into it because I had heard through the grapevine that Humanist Canada does endorse officiants and get you licensed through the government of Ontario. So I ended up going through the training program, but it was a little late. The opportunity wasn't until January. Her wedding was in October. So I missed hers, but then I was thinking, I should still continue to go through with it because there are a lot of people, especially this day and age, that don't want religious ceremonies, especially in the 2S LGBTQIA plus community who are not able to get married in certain churches. There's also people who may be in an interfaith marriage, kind of like myself and yourself, where, maybe you don't want to get married in a church and maybe you do want to have some religious elements to it. And in that case, basically I'll say, does grandma want to do a reading from the Bible? Or, does Uncle Jeff want to do it or something. Whereas I don't have to do it, but I don't mind incorporating that into any of the ceremonies that I do.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Hey, one more question regarding recovering from religion. You know, we were both saying how this helps you become a person aligned, right? Versus being different people all the time. But then I think there are also people who did grow up not disagreeing growing up, but actually were really fully in. It's almost like one of those things. What do I constantly return to? What have I grown up with that I lean on, that I'm almost dependent on, right? So then to really step away, you're pulling the rug out, or it can feel that way. It can be disorienting.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of people that, they call in and they said, I can't believe, I've believed all this time. And, I see the world so differently now. And a lot of times what we use is street epistemology. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
Anthony.
that term. Nagnabosko.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love Anthony. He actually, he helps us out with recovering from religion as well. He does some of the interviews for us for new applicants coming through. And he actually wrote the foreword to my book that's going to be coming out soon. So I'm
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, no, we have a lot of people who, they'll call in and they'll say like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. I need a plan. And what we do is we use the free epistemology to help them develop a plan. We'll say something along the lines of like, okay, how are you feeling right now? What is that feeling that you feel? And, they'll say like, oh, I feel, grief, or I feel pain, or I feel, name an emotion. And then we say, what would it feel like if you woke up tomorrow and you didn't have this pain anymore? And then they say, oh, that'd feel great. What can we do to get you to that point? What in your life would make you feel like you've achieved that feeling? And a lot of times they'll come forward and say, I want to be able to tell my mom that I don't believe anymore, or I want to tell, my wife, or just to be able to go somewhere like Sunday Assembly, or to go to an Oasis group or something, or Secular Student Alliance, somewhere where it's not church-based. And that's the thing. They kind of come up with their own plan, and then we say, that sounds great. We'll check in with you if you want to be part of the online community. We can kind of monitor you as you go through this, or if you want to call us back. And then we try and, establish that rapport so that they can call back in if they're feeling those feelings or doubts again in the future.
Steve, you just really illustrated what that whole process is about, the power of questions.
Yeah.
You started this whole interview saying we're a sounding board. There it is.
Right.
How do I know what I think if I can't say what I think? And sometimes when I say it, now I know what I'm thinking.
No, it's true.
You allow that to
really
happen. Very cool. So, hey, you just mentioned Sunday Assembly Detroit, right? So let's say I am that person that had the rug pulled out. I might even go through a phase where I'm so angry at quote unquote church that I can't even bring myself to go there. But then I would understand somebody having echoes of there's certain aspects I've been missing from there. Mm-hmm. So tell us about Sunday Assembly Detroit.
Sunday Assembly was created by two British comedians. They were driving to a show, and one of them said to the other one, wouldn't it be cool if we could go to church but without the religion? And the other one said, yeah, we should do that. So they actually created the very first Sunday Assembly, and they thought like maybe 50 people would show up. And I think it was something like 200 or something like that.
Wow.
They didn't have enough room for everybody. And they just realized how much of a huge thing this was, like this need was for all these people. And that was in the UK. People started writing about it. There was a lot of articles coming out saying, check out this atheist church, like, and that type of thing. It was kind of cool. But then eventually it kind of came over to the Americas, and in the United States and in Canada, it's now a thing. So Sunday Assembly Detroit is just across the bridge from me. It's basically kind of like a church service, but it's more like a motivational speaker will get up and talk. There is music that's not religiously affiliated. And there's a kids program that's based on doing science experiments and just playing and learning about nature. It all takes place in Detroit in this place called the Birmingham Temple, which was actually opened by Rabbi Sherwin Wine, who is the very first humanistic Jew. Wow. So humanistic Judaism, it was kind of like they took their culture, but said, we don't really believe in God anymore. We're just going to, continue with our culture and our practices and traditions. So he opened that temple, and now they kind of co-share it with Sunday Assembly. So Sunday Assembly Detroit, I'm part of the board there myself, so I'm an outreach officer for them. And part of my job is getting motivational speakers to come. Would you want to come and do a talk,
really?
Maybe at Sunday Assembly? Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, we'd love you to come and do that.
Wow. yes, I want to hear more about it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. You can pick your own topic and we can kind of, work with it. We'll get you to come and do a talk there. And afterwards, we always have a lunch. So we always get lunch from certain places, usually local places. We try and support local. It's just an amazing time for people to get together and share that community, because if you look at the actual studies on religious people and their happiness, the happiest people are people that are in church but have a close community with the people there. The second most happy people are atheists, like non-believers who have a community. And then the third is like church people who don't have community and that type of thing, right? So yeah, the community aspect is more of the draw to the religion than the theology.
Yeah, it's the universal need to belong. We're social beings.
Yeah, it's in our nature.
It just comes back to that again.
Yep.
Now that you've outed yourself to your wife, I'm sorry to say it like that. Share what you're comfortable with sharing. How has that changed the dynamic in your marriage, would you say?
So I had actually come out to her quite a while before that. Mm-hmm. It's just that was kind of one of those things where I'm like, if she hears the word recovering from religion, she's going to, get her back up. Yeah, we'd kind of discussed things a long time ago. From the beginning of our relationship, it's funny. I've actually had talks on this before, and I actually did a talk at Sunday Assembly Detroit, and you can find that on YouTube. But basically, when we started dating, I didn't really realize that she was religious. She was kind of, I wouldn't say hidden about it, but it just wasn't a big thing for her. Mm-hmm. Maybe a few months in, when she was like, "Oh, I'm going to go to church," and then I just decided to go with her, because at the time I was an apatheist. I didn't care about religion or anything. It didn't bother me. When we got married and I realized how religious her family was, because at the wedding, they even said, "We're so happy she met somebody who shares the exact same beliefs that she does." And that kind of made me feel like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
The wink.
Because I'm like, I don't, right? So I'm like, I have to find a way now to try and, break the news to everybody, because now it took a long time. We worked on it. And then when our first son was about to be born, we said, well, how are we going to raise our kids? Because we never really talked about religion, and she didn't really know that I thought anything differently. And we decided that we're just going to, expose them to different ideas and different beliefs, and they can choose what they want. So I always feel like you can't choose your beliefs. You're either, convinced of something or you're not.
Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. But having the opportunity to be exposed to different belief systems and to just, hear, from different perspectives. And I feel like I'm in a lucky situation, or a privileged position where, they can hear in our own home different beliefs right in front of them, and they can kind of, evaluate each side.
Yeah. And then it really probably comes back to that street epistemology stuff of, well, tell me why you're thinking that, and what do you like about that? And is there anything you're wondering? Just the power of questions again. Hey, how is it that I've never heard of apatheist before? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah, apatheist. It's just like a mix between
I totally get it. Apathy. I mean, I picked up a new word today, and yet in the last, 10 years that I've been delving into all this deeply, I can't believe I haven't really picked up on that word before. So there you go.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's see, funny you say that.
Well, I guess you learn something new every day, right?
Yes. Well, hey, is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
You don't have to be a perfect person. You don't have to be a perfect partner. You don't have to be a perfect parent. You just try your best. And like Maya Angelou always says, you do your best until you learn better. And then when you know better, you do better.
I love it. Hey, that YouTube Sunday Assembly, could you send that my way? I'd love to put that in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people just Google my name on YouTube, there's a few presentations I've done on that. Okay. And I also write on Medium, piling a lot of my stories on there into a book with some other ones that I've written as well. So I'm hoping to have that out. I was hoping for September, but then the editor that was working on it said, "You've got everything wrong here. You need to start from scratch and put things in a different order." So I'm like, so I'm now hoping for January, but it's not looking promising.
Well, best of luck with that. And hey, just thanks again for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Shining so bright, recovering from religion's alright. Bridge the gap when faith is gone. You can question on and on. There are many others, it's okay. Connect with RFR today. Steve, we thank you from our heart.
for listening to Funny You Say That.